Are recording. I think last week I thought I was so much more cool and like sounded better and stuff. And I think it's because
Go ahead.
I swear it's because I was drinking. Because I asked Bosch one day how he does it, and he says he drinks before every podcast. He said he usually just has a couple drinks, and it just calms his nerves way down. I said, that is a really good idea. And then I was thinking last week, I didn't have a lot, but
yeah, you don't get sloshed.
Yeah. Unless you're on like Bull Rush or something. But yeah. That'll be a good little intro. Anyways, I'd like to welcome everybody this week to Devy Owner's Manual episode 10. This week, the early declarations are now complete. We've got the first couple of the highlight games, kind of. I don't know what you call them exactly. Showcase games. We get the
All-Star games.
There you go. The East-West Shrine game, as well as the NFL PA College or Collegiate Bowl. Both of them are this weekend. We're going to glance over the early declarations in case you missed one, and then go over the rosters for the Shrine game and the NFL PA game. And before we get into this shindig, we're going to send a big thank you to Chris Allen. By the way, if you want to find him on Twitter, it's at Chris Allen FFWX, and Adam Wilde at DHH_Adam. They have the Dynasty Owners Manual at Devy Manual, and they are gracious enough to let them be on their podcast family. So I'm going to give them a huge shout out as usual. And I want to introduce my co-host, who's kind of riding on a cloud nine right now. Andrew?
No, how are you doing, Dwight? It's been a fantastic 48 hours for me.
You've been like initiated as a sticky now. You're like in the Sticky Hall of Fame or something. Like you gotta.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I had a couple of their avid listeners, Aunt Oreo, Dan Barnes, and Dan 10,000 times over. They all messaged me and were telling me that. So it's funny how things work.
Right. If any of you are unfamiliar with this, they were gracious enough to raise a little money so Andrew could fly down to next weekend to scout for the scout of the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. I'll be down there running laps with Forrest Gump, baby. So should be a really good time, man.
No, yeah, I'm excited. I've never been to Alabama. Further south, I've been in Florida. So no, it's going to be fun. I can't thank everyone that donated enough. I can't thank Matt Miller for offering that enough. And I mean, I'm sure Matt doesn't listen to this because he's so busy and has better information than we do. But that doesn't mean we're not worth listening to. Right. But and then Ben Albright too. It's funny. I was telling my wife, if everything lined up universally perfect for the first time ever for me, and Ben played a big part in helping me with my credential. I have no shame in saying that. But no, I'm very, very excited. And as he said, I plan to pay it forward the first chance I get for anybody.
Right, you can buy me a ticket. Anyways. All right, man. We're going to go through the declarations in case anybody missed any. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's heard the quarterbacks. Kyler Murray was the big one. He's still getting a lot of buzz there on Twitter. I still see a lot of varying opinions. I think everybody seems to be warming up on him, though, as it looks like more and more likely like he is going to absolutely 100% pick football. He still can back out. He's still not entirely free of baseball, but it sounds like he's going to be a top, I'd say probably 10 or 12 pick. I actually saw The Athletic today mocked him going to the Bengals, which kind of surprised me.
Ooh, yeah, that would be different. I mean, they got to go with something. The whole division, well, I mean, Ben's still in Pittsburgh, but Lamar and Baker are there as young guys.
That would be an exciting division for quarterbacks, like mobile, fun, young quarterbacks. So.
For sure.
And the ones that had already declared: Dwayne Haskins, Tyree Jackson, Daniel Jones, Jarrett Stidham. Like probably Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins have a chance of being picked in the first round as well. It's kind of sort of the buzz that I'm hearing around the industry, so to speak.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think it's funny. We were talking about how bad this quarterback class is, and I'm not saying Matt talked about it on his podcast with Stick to Football. There's a difference between being graded around one and going in round one. There's going to be a lot of these quarterbacks that aren't necessarily going to grade as round one talent, but they're going to go in round one because they're quarterbacks. Right. I've been talking about it the whole time. You go back to 2013, there was only one quarterback taken. It was E.J. Manuel, and at the start of the second round was Will Greer. Geno Smith. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's the bad quarterback class everyone keeps referring to, where their leading passers Mike Glennon. So, I think they have more athletic ability and talent in this class, for sure. It's a lot of it's going to be going to the right spot.
Right. Yeah, I hope that. I feel like all the three major ones that I just talked about they're going to have to go somewhere where they're not thrown into the fire. But with Haskins and Murray, they're probably going to get drafted high enough to where they probably will be thrown into the fire. Unfortunately, I think all three of those guys have the tools to succeed. They both have a lot of things to like about their game, but definitely detractments to their game as well. So it should be interesting. I think, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's as bad as that class you mentioned there, but
no.
Yeah. So running back, yeah, absolutely. The running back class is not as strong, but I definitely like some of the names on here. These are just early declarations we're talking about here. Rodney Anderson, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, Travion Williams, Benny Snell, Darrell Henderson, I think is how he actually pronounces it. So there's some really interesting names there. A lot of those are going to be, I think all 5 or 6 that I just mentioned have potential to be like workhorse type backs. Just depends on the situation. And I'm most excited personally about David Montgomery and Josh Jacobs. And if Rodney Anderson can rehab, he's going to be one of the top ones too.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about Devin Singletary as well. Devin Singletary. Elijah Holyfield, I think, once he gets to do the workouts and everything, I think he's really going to step out of everyone else's shadow. And then Miles Sanders, I'm really excited to see too.
Right. So it's not going to be as bad of a class as I think some are acting like it's going to be. And then the run, everybody's talked about the wide receivers for quite some time. So there's A.J. Brown, Kelvin Harmon, N'Keal Harry, DK Metcalf, Marquise Brown, J.J. Arcega Whiteside, Riley Ridley, Hakeem Butler. I think all those guys could potentially go in the first couple rounds. And depending on the situation, and if they land on a team that is wide receiver needy, which there are quite a few right now, I think a lot of those, multiple of those could make a huge splash.
Yeah, I mean, a couple favorites of mine are going to be Little Jordan Humphrey too. A lot of people at Texas thought he was going to stay, from what I was reading and seeing. So him declaring was a bit of a shock, just because Colin Johnson stayed.
Right, they thought Colin was coming out and Little Jordan was staying.
The other way around. And then before Kyler Murray decided to break draft Twitter, Riley Ridley was breaking draft Twitter, and I think he will continue to do so. He's the classic case of stats and production versus on paper talent and analytics. So he's definitely going to be fun to watch go through the process.
Absolutely. I'm ungodly excited about the tight ends this year, man.
Yes.
One of the first ones on this list that came up is he's actually playing in the NFL PA game, and one of them that I kind of had wanted to watch is Keenan Brown. Obviously, Noah Fant, Caden Smith, Jay Sternberger, Isaac Nada, Irv Smith Jr., and then TJ Hawkinson kind of surprised and declared. So I love those tight ends this year. I think we're going to get an infusion where – I mean, didn't it seem like this last year there was only like 3 or 4 tight ends that you could even count on anymore?
Oh, yeah. No, last year's tight ends were very bad. You had Gesicki and Hayden Hurst, Mark Andrews.
I meant it's the overall NFL landscape. There wasn't hardly any tight ends.
Rookies.
Last year, yeah.
And then I'm just looking quick because I have all but I've watched. I'm done grading my tight ends except 2 of them, Isaac Noada, I think, and then Irv Smith Jr., and Isaac could definitely jump up with the rankings. Where it stands now, I have Keenan Brown as my 4th tight end, behind, I won't say what order because I'll save it for the article, but Kane Smith, Noah Fant, and Dax Raymond from Utah State. So, I mean, Keenan Brown's definitely up there. Him at the NFLPA Bowl, I think's big there. And Matt Miller's been already talking about him.
Right. And yeah, we had some key players staying in school. Like we mentioned, Colin Johnson. Obviously, everybody knows about Justin Herbert. Tyree Cleveland kind of surprised me. Brian Edwards really, really surprised me.
The way he stayed was the best way ever, too.
Right. And then Albert O from Missouri surprisingly stayed.
Yeah.
Tyler Johnson at Minnesota was a puzzling one for me.
Yeah. I think he's going to definitely be one of those ones where he would have been at least a second this year. He could be a first next year.
Right. Yeah. So So that's kind of the basic landscape. Those are just early declarations there. If anybody's curious, there's a spreadsheet online. Ryan McDowell has one that I'm sure you could find on his timeline if you wanted to find it. I'm sure everybody follows him. I can't think of his Twitter handle offhand, but I'm sure everybody follows him. So if you don't, what is wrong with you? Anyways, we've got some interesting news and notes. And then after the news and notes, I want to talk about what most of the news and notes is about, and that's quarterbacks transferring. Good Lord.
Yeah, no, it's one domino falls and the rest are just kind of following suit.
Right. It was, and unfortunately, I think it's going to keep happening too. I personally don't like it. It's one of those things, but we can talk about that another show. Sorry, I don't want to sidetrack.
I don't like that none of them went to Florida. That's my only gripe with the whole thing.
Oh yeah, come on. So, and on top of that, probably the best one of them all, Tate Martell actually went to Miami of all things. So
Manny Diaz, I put it out last night when I saw that. I was talking to one of the college football rankings Twitter accounts, and I can't remember which one it was, and I apologize. But my grandpa's a diehard Miami fan, all the way back to when you were getting free tickets with your Burger King meal in Florida. He was like, "What do you think of Manny Diaz?" Yada yada yada. And I was like, "He's a Miami guy. His dad was the mayor. He just like oozes that swag that they haven't had since 80s and 90s and early 2000s. So obviously with the way the rules are now, you're not going to do a lot of the same stuff that those teams did. But as far as bringing in recruits, keeping recruits, I mean, he's having people that were talking about transferring coming back already with a couple of the key wide receivers and bringing in Tate Martell. He's going to be doing some big things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people saw them last year with the turnover chain and saw that. That's the Miami swagger they used to always have. I mean,
he came up with that. 2 years ago.
I grew up. My grandmother worked for Florida State, so I grew up a kind of a Florida State fan by default. And we just hated Miami, just hated them. I mean, they were just dirty, and they always won. And just man, I got some memories of absolutely hating the Hurricanes back in the day. But so he seems to be doing some good things with that program. So we'll see.
For sure. And it's fun when you have a team like Miami who's historically dominant and historically, as we say, has that swagger. It's always fun when they're a part of it. It's like the NFL with the Browns coming back. It's a little bit more fun for the AFC North.
Right. Yeah, there's a couple college teams like that, like Michigan, them being successful helps the overall life, I think, So anyways, the most puzzling one I thought was actually Jalen Hurts transferring to Oklahoma.
Yeah, no, I said last night I thought because Manny Diaz got Martell and he was like, we're not done yet. I totally thought he was going to somehow sweep up Jalen Hurts while Martell sits here. But no, I mean, that's 3 quarterbacks now that Lincoln Riley's gotten to come to him as transfers. Started with Baker, went Cliff Kingsbury, and had that whole situation. Then he got Kyler Murray because someone would rather have Knight at Texas A&M, and now he's got Jalen Hurts going to Oklahoma. Which, did you see the reason behind Hurts supposedly wanting to go to Oklahoma? He thought Oklahoma has the best chance of playing Alabama in the playoff.
Nice.
And he wants to show them that.
Too bad he won't be the quarterback for him. Anyways, I lay that whole situation out really quick for you guys. Is they have a very, very highly recruited freshman coming in, Spencer Rattler. He's awesome, like a great, great high school quarterback. So he's probably licking his chops, thinking he's going to be the next guy up. Although he had Austin Kendall standing in the way. So Jalen Hurts transfers to Oklahoma. Austin Kendall transfers to West Virginia. And on top of all this, Lincoln Riley had told Spencer Rattler that he was not going to take any transfer quarterbacks. So kind of wonder if Lincoln's built, making himself a bed there. He's got to be a little careful with these kids, man. I don't know. Just crazy. And then it looked like they were going to block Austin Kendall from transferring. And then I guess they decided to let him go ahead and go. So
yeah, right at 7 o'clock at the end of Sports Center, they announced they rescinded that.
Right. And to Hurts, in Oklahoma's offense makes no sense to me. He's a decent passer, but he's very limited and inconsistent. That's the reason why he wasn't asked to throw a lot in Alabama. So I'm curious. I don't know. He's got to win the job first, I guess. So maybe just some senior leadership. Who knows? Then another Brandon Wimbush from Notre Dame transferred to UCF, which was kind of an interesting transfer, I thought, as well.
I was watching Elise Mack tape from 2017, Notre Dame tight end, and I have in my notes, oh my God, they should have switched from Wimbush sooner.
Wimbush is hot garbage, dude. Like he is. I'm sorry, I rarely will ever hear me say anything bad about a prospect, but dude, saw too much of that guy last year. He was garbage.
Yeah, as far as Devy concerned, you can stay away from him.
To run that offense at UCF, I don't know, man. Whatever, we'll see. I guess. Didn't unless it is another veteran leadership type of thing. Maybe he'll come in and mentor, the other kid there.
I think he plays the first couple games as kind of like a bridge until Milton hopefully can come back.
Right.
If he's healthy, there's no reason he shouldn't be the starter.
Right. Then one other transfer, James Blackman from Florida State, who started in place of DeAndre Francois, who started in place of him last year and was not particularly great. He also put his name in the transfer portal, so it'll be interesting. I don't think he'll draw a ton of interest.
I don't know what it is with Florida State quarterbacks and transferring.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just this whole transfer thing. I think what it will ultimately realize is these kids are going to start. Hopefully, they'll stop coming in one right on top of the other. Like if you've got two quarterbacks standing in your way, yeah, you might think you're going to beat them out, but
it's like with Field going to Georgia. He knew Fromm was there. He knew Fromm got him to a national championship. And I think
wasn't Eason even there when he committed? So there was
Eason transferred
in the way. Yeah, so there was possibly several standing in the way of him. So I think maybe it'll stop these teams from stockpiling all these young. Maybe spread them out a little bit. I don't know.
I saw they were talking on Stick to Football about this, and they were saying how only one, making it so not so much you have to split up a talent because it's not fair if they want to go to the NFL because you're not going to get the same type of coaching at University of Texas San Antonio as you are at Alabama, but doing something where you could only bring in one top-ranked quarterback prospect every so often.
Every 2 years or something, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. I can't remember what they were talking about. But, I think something like that would be good. And then if you are going to transfer, I know you're not necessarily for it in that sense, just constantly doing it all the time, but just let them be eligible right away. I understand the cost, the competitive aspect of it. If they transfer out of your conference, just let them play right away.
Right. So yeah, I think there's a better way they can handle it, but I don't see any way they can enforce it. Honestly, each team can spend their scholarships the way they want. So, but I think it might make these young quarterbacks think twice, about what's in front of them and, are they going to get to play type of thing. So,
right.
Then one other interesting news is Josh Allen, my boy, will not be playing in the Senior Bowl. I honestly don't blame him. I don't see anything he could do to possibly raise his draft stock. So.
That's what I saw a lot of people saying is he's really done what he needs to do at this point. Kind of like Deshaun a couple of years ago. He was going to go to the Senior Bowl and then flopped out. Word either. I'm trying to make it not sound like he was being dumb. Obviously, he made a good decision because he still was a top pick, went to Houston, but he just changed his decision, decommitted, and he did fine. So I think Josh Allen will be okay too.
Exactly. All right, next let's go over the East and West Shrine game. The game is Saturday, I believe, right? The 19th? Yep. Yeah, Saturday. I will unfortunately be at Niagara Falls celebrating my wife's birthday, so I will not be able to watch any of the game as it happens. But
unfortunately.
Whoops. Nobody heard that, right? Anyways, there's they've been raving about these quarterbacks. There's some really good quarterbacks in here. I hope that they all get a chance to play. Not likely. The couple that really stand out to me, and he's been getting a lot of buzz all week for the East, is Jordan Ta'amu from Mississippi State, from Ole Miss. Sorry, I see Mississippi, and I'm like, what's that? Ole Miss. Was that?
I was just saying, yeah. No, I agree.
Gotcha. Yeah, he started for a year and a half there. He ended up with 3,900 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in 2018. Obviously, throwing to a very good bevy of wide receivers there, and A.J. Brown and DeMarcus Lodge, and then DK Metcalf as well, obviously, who's out part of the way all year. Jordan, he throws a really good deep ball, or not just deep ball. He throws just a beautiful spiral. He's only got, I think, 17 games under his belt as a starter. So
yeah, he doesn't have a lot.
So you can see in the way he played in the SEC and put up those numbers, still pretty stellar numbers. But his field vision and his awareness of the game needs some work. So something that he will probably have to work on. Was there anybody on the East there or the West quarterbacks that stood out for you?
Brett Ripien. I don't know how to say his name. I apologize. Brett Ripien, to me, I really, really like a lot. I think once I get done grading, I'm actually going to probably watch him tonight or tomorrow. Once I start getting these quarterbacks, I think he's going to be ranked right up there with right outside that Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones spot. Easton Stick, I did watch and grade him. Obviously, I don't have a lot of other quarterbacks to go off of, but I do have a grading scale of 25 points that they can have, and he got about a 15.67. So he's about average for me. I think my notes with him. Hold on.
Yeah, he's been getting a lot of buzz this week, and I just don't see it. I think everybody wants him to be the next Carson Wentz.
And I wrote that on my notes. It's not going to be the next Carson Wentz.
He's got a very, very similar build to Kyler Murray, actually.
Yeah, he's very shifty as a runner, I have down, as far as what I put down. He does keep his eyes down the field, but he just doesn't have the arm to deliver the ball. He overthrows, or underthrows, a couple of open wide receivers from the games I've seen. He doesn't have a tight spiral. And then whenever he rolls out and he's flushed out of the pocket and he's forced to throw across his body or on the run, it can be erratic. So he's very athletic, but he'll definitely be a journeyman backup type. I don't think he'll be what everyone wanted to be, which is Carson Wentz, which is tough to live up to replacing him. But
exactly. So there's a couple running backs that stood out that I've heard have also been getting some buzz this week. We'll stay on the west side for me. Nick Brissett, LSU. He was kind of stuck behind, obviously, Darius Geis, and I think he was stuck behind Fournette for a year, his first year. But this year, he ended up with 1,000 yards, 14 scores, only 4.3 yards per carry, which is a little alarming in college. But what I watched a couple games today of him, and he's a very strong, decisive runner. He hits the hole really good and just plows through people. Obviously, he's got the pedigree and he was a highly recruited running back when he came out. As most LSU running backs are. So he's one. And then Darren Hall Jr. from Pittsburgh, also a very similar guy, really, really good build, 5'11", 225, very powerful. He's not particularly quick or elusive, but he's just strong and he doesn't lose yards. So he had 1,100 yards, 10 scores this year, 7.5 yards per carry, splitting the backfield there in Pittsburgh with Kadri Olesen. But is there any other running backs that stood out for you?
Yeah, no, one I'm excited to get diving into, and one that Kyle Krabs was the first one to really bring him to my attention. Devin, how would you say it? Ozigbo. Ozigbo from Nebraska. Something that Krabs likes a lot with him from Draft Network is that he's 6'2", 235 is what he's listed at, but he does not move like he's 6'2", 235. He moves very, very well. He's been doing very well in practice this week. I think he could be one that if you could get, he's probably not going to be on very many Devy rosters and taxi squads and stuff like that. I definitely think when your rookie drafts roll around, you could probably take him as like a 4th or 5th round pick, kind of like an Ito Smith was last year if he goes to the right spot.
Yep, all those ones that we mentioned are in the West. And one name that I've heard on the East is Jordan Ellis from Virginia. He's been getting some buzz this week. 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns this year. He's a great pass blocker, actually, and he's a very eager pass blocker, what I've read from scouting reports and stuff. And he's just a quick, powerful back, 5'10", 225. They have definitely, it's like the West has very good running backs and very good quarterbacks. Are there any wide receivers that are catching your eye this week?
DeMarcus Lodge is one that I watched and have a grade on with him as well. Because I've been working on him for an article I'm doing. He, to me, his size isn't that fantastic. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. As far as not being a very tall receiver, but with that though, from what I watched with him, he was able to beat press coverage a decent amount of time. He wasn't doing it with his hands; he was doing it with his feet. His footwork's insane. In the one article I'm writing about, I said that his footwork kind of reminds me with Antonio Brown as far as just how well he uses it. Because with if you go back and watch the Ole Miss game against LSU this year, he does a double move on Greedy Williams, and Greedy Williams falls over. Like, if it was the NBA, it would have been all over the place. Like James Harden-esque on Wesley Johnson for you NBA fans. Right. But no, what he did there with Greedy Williams really caught my eye. And his stats aren't bad. I mean, last year he had 877 yards, 65 catches, and 4 touchdowns. But he got overshadowed in an Ole Miss offense that has Dawson Knox, A.J. Brown, and DK Metcalf. So, I mean, he's a solid receiver. It's just he's not going to have the jump off the board stats as everyone else does.
Yeah, there was a couple years ago where it was thought of those three, A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf and DeMarcus Lodge, that any of them could be the best. Like, any of them could have came out and been the guy. So he was definitely highly regarded when he came in, and it was good to see him flourish a little bit this year. You know, once he got a chance to play, he's had a little bit of issues with drops, but yeah, his release at the line is insane. So
he gets open, and then it's just he had to get the ball. And then I also want to see, like you said, drops, something to improve on for him. I also want to see him kind of win more contested balls. I saw a couple where it was like 50-50 catches and he wasn't winning them. In the NFL, you have to do that.
And I had heard also from practice this week, I think you've mentioned Keyshawn Johnson before.
Yes. Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson. Do you want to go about him tonight, or do you want me to?
No, you. Yeah, I was throwing it to you.
Oh, okay,
I was chucking it to you. I was lobbing it up.
Everything I've been seeing from Draft Network shows that Keyshawn's having a very good year, or very good practice week, I should say, down in Tampa. He's another one with quick feet. He doesn't have the giant size. He's just like DeMarcus Lodge. He uses his feet more to get himself open. He's another one that I want to see win 50-50 balls more. He has a couple drops as well. His route running I really, really like. It's very sharp, I think. And then with him, it's just more or less getting in the right system and being used the right way. But I think, like you were saying, the Shrine Games receiving core and offense in general is very, very refreshing.
Yeah, actually, there's a guy who was pointed out to me, and then I watched some tape of him today, Brody Oliver from the Colorado School of Mines. First time he said it, I thought he said mines. I thought he said mimes. I'm like, dude, really? The Colorado School of Mines. He's a Division II guy, 55 catches for 1,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. You watch the tape on this kid, and holy hell, does he look amazing? I mean, it's Division II. I admit that, but 6'3", 210, and he high points. His hands. You can't get it away from him when you throw anywhere near him. And I want to see him against some real competition this week. And be kind of one of those guys I hope gets in the game and catches some stuff and ends up getting a late draft pick, or even just an undrafted free agent look. Just if you pull up some stuff on him, you might have to dig through some 8mm tape. But yeah, you find the Colorado School of Mines. Yes. But interesting prospect. Were there any tight ends on either squad that stood out for you?
Sorry, I was looking up.
It's fine. Yeah.
Oliver.
I heard
the tape is very grainy.
Yes. The tight ends that I've heard this week are CJ Conrad, and he's one name that I heard kind of out of practice from Kentucky. And then
CJ Conrad I have on my list to watch. He's the only one on that I have. Conrad, though,
right? I don't think he had the stats. Sort of like Matthew Sokol from Michigan State. He was expected to do a whole lot this year and just didn't. Just athletic, really good size for a tight end, and thought they would take the step and really didn't this year. So
yeah, no, 6'4", 245. His ball skills are nice. I mean, Kentucky wasn't a passing team, so he kind of suffered from that. He wasn't really used a lot.
Same with Michigan State. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't have a very good route tree. He has decent feet. He will fight for the extra yard, obviously, with that body and size and frame. But I mean, there was a couple plays I saw where he got the ball on like a quick little turnaround 5-10 yard route, and he was able to turn upfield quick and just kind of turn on the jets and break it off for a very big touchdown. So he definitely has the potential to be the athletic type of tight end that the NFL is gearing towards.
Right.
But at Kentucky, he just wasn't used that way. So it'll be fun. He's definitely going to be one of those guys at these games you want to see mixed in with a quarterback that can really throw.
Right.
Because at Kentucky, it was Benny Snell.
Exactly. Can kind of hold you back a little bit. So we'll glance over the defense real quick. The West defense, a guy that I've heard a lot of this year, this week already, is Dalen Mack, Texas A&M. He's a defensive end, 6'1", 320. He's a 5-star recruit going into Texas A&M, and didn't really put up the stats, but he's shown really well so far in practice. He's got great burst, a really good quick first step. He creates a really nasty push in the middle, but he can generate pass rush from the interior. I said defensive end at the beginning. He tends to play more toward the interior, more like not quite on the nose, but like inside, one of the inside guys on like a 4-3. Creates a lot of push, but he's also a really good run stopper. He's a name that I've heard a lot this week, as well as Daniel Wise from Kansas. I've heard a lot that he's tearing up practice so far. There's a couple linemen that I've heard. Have you heard any names this week thus far?
With defensive wise, Khalil Hodge is probably the biggest one on defense that I'm excited to watch, just because I like seeing him at Kentucky. Or not Kentucky. Oh my gosh, the blue uniforms. Buffalo.
So he had a big old fat star on too. He's one of the top tacklers the last couple of years. 153, 143 this year. Just tackles everything that comes within 10 foot of him. He's pretty interesting guy to watch. And then, an interesting name on defense. One of the cornerbacks, Michael Jackson Sr.
Yes,
playing on the East. He was thought to be a first-round pick. Like, I saw some mocks last year, like at the end of the year, that put him as like a top 10 pick even in this draft in 2019. But he struggled a little bit this year. He didn't have any picks, no turnovers forced, but I also don't think he was being targeted a whole lot as well. So he definitely seemed to take a little bit of a step back. Should still be an early day 2 guy, I think. But
yeah, no, Miami as a whole kind of took a step back, but I think it was more or less just overall play and not just him.
Right. Let me glance through one more time here. Oh, one other name, Chris Johnson. He's a safety playing for the East. He's played at North Alabama Division II. He was an All-American Division II player last year. He's a safety, 6'3", 200 pounds, but he can run like a 4.4-ish, like blazing fast. They kind of compared him to the Penn State guy that came out last year, Apke, that nobody had really heard of, and then like tested stupid insane in the combine and destroyed I think he played in the Shrine game as well, but it may have been the Senior Bowl. And he kind of put his name on the map. Unfortunately, didn't really do too much with it. But Chris Johnson's got some really good size, very, very sound tackler, very aggressive guy that can hit and also cover, obviously, with that speed. So, but Division II, he might have a little bit to learn. So I'm curious to see what he does if he gets in the game this weekend. So, yeah, there's a lot of guys to watch. I'm sure there's. I've seen several articles the last couple days with, more names than anybody watched. So, yeah, it should be a fun game, man. Anybody else? Anything else you think of?
No, I think Shrine game, is definitely a step up from the NFLPA Bowl, but I think the NFLPA Bowl might have one of my favorite players in it.
Right. And speaking of the NFLPA game, this one is one that are you talking about Jake Browning?
Yes, Jake Browning.
Dude, I knew it. Anyways, no. What's kind of interesting about the NFLPA game is we both love stick to football and Matt Miller, and he actually had a hand in picking the rosters for these. So that kind of makes me think, there's a lot of names that when I was glancing through the rosters, there are guys that I hadn't really heard of or that I've heard of, but not of doing anything. So there was definitely some, there's some guys that probably just didn't get a chance to play. There's a couple guys from Michigan on the rosters. There's an Ohio State wide receiver, I believe. Yeah. Trying to find him. I'm talking and glancing, and I can't think and talk at the same time, apparently.
No, for sure. It's definitely going to be – this doesn't get the same hoopla that the Senior Bowl gets, obviously, and the Shrine Game. But no, this is going to be more or less where you see guys that have the intangibles and they have the tools and the analytics part of it, where you're like they could potentially develop into something.
Right. So you said there were some names that stuck out for you in this one?
Yeah, no. I mean, I said this week Jake Browning I watched, and it was the longest time of my life that I'll never get back. But regardless, it's one of those things where they talked about it on Stick to Football, and I've heard other scouts say it. You try to come into these Shrine Games and the NFLPA and the Senior Bowl with a clean slate and a clear mind, where you're like, I'm going to see these guys for the first time with NFL talent coaches and help and stuff like this. And you don't know what Jake Browning's been doing in the 15 days since he's played a game. I know he probably couldn't have completely turned himself around, but people were surprised at what Josh Allen was able to do last year at the Senior Bowl, where he came in and he wasn't the athletic type quarterback, but fixed his throwing motion and started to show promise of other aspects. Browning is definitely very athletic. His arm is going to be his biggest question mark. I mean, you're a quarterback, you can't have that. Browning for sure is the biggest name as far as the quarterbacks go on it. Another one I think worth listening to or watching, Manny Wilkins, quarterback from Arizona State. When I watched some N'Keal Harry this year, I wasn't as impressed with Wilkins. He's definitely more of like a game manager type. He's not going to go out and make a play for you and win the game, more or less. He relies on giving the ball to his playmakers and having them do it for him, which is fine. Right. If you're on the right team in the right situation, you can make that work.
Yeah, I saw him play several games, including when they played Michigan State, and I think he threw for nearly 400 yards against Michigan State.
Yeah,
I think he gets bailed. You see those catches that N'Keal makes, and I think they're because Manny Wilkins doesn't throw a great ball.
I was going to say that's what you got to keep in mind is when you got a guy making insane catches, it's because he's adjusting to the ball. So it's one of those things.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
An interesting name I saw in the American offense, Jason Moore from the Fantasy Footballers. He's going to be – oh, wait, University of Findlay. Never mind. My bad. Shout out to Jason Moore, the Footballers. I'm sure they listen to us.
Oh, for sure. They have a tattoo of our logo. I think Mike does.
Anywho, I got to drink more, apparently. Like I said, there's a couple names on here. There was one guy that really stuck out here. Where was he at? You said there was there anybody else that you saw that you really wanted to keep an eye on?
The one I'm most excited to watch, and it's more or less just because he's a local guy, is Wes Hills, running back from Slippery Rock. I'm from Clarion, and one of Clarion's biggest rivals is Slippery Rock. They're about 45 minutes away. A buddy of mine is a grad student there, and he went to a couple games this year, and he was telling me beforehand, he's like, the running back here is pretty good. He's a transfer from Delaware, yada, yada, yada. I completely forgot about it until I saw this roster, and I was like, wait a minute. So I texted him. He's like, yeah, that's who I was talking to you about. Like I said, he's a transfer from Delaware. This past year, though, he was first team all PSAC West. PSAC's the little rinky-dink conference that they play in here. This past year, he ran for 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, 1,900 all-purpose yards, second all-time in school history. And he was in just 12 games. He even missed 2 games with those numbers.
Wow.
His previous year in Delaware, he had 1,400 yards. So he's definitely a good running back. I have to dive into and watch more of him. I'm trying to find more. If you ever look up a picture of him, I can't remember who it was, says he looks like a cop from an 80s show. And he really does. But no, I think he'll be fun to watch. Just a little bit of close near school bias. 6'2", 218. So even though he's got a big frame, he's got doesn't have that much weight on him. So definitely uses the size to his advantage.
You had mentioned that Keenan Brown was your fourth-ranked tight end. He's playing for the national side there. Tight end from Texas State.
Yeah, no, Keenan Brown, I was watching in Texas State. The games I was watching, the quarterback play was very, very bad, just like Elise Mack when I was watching Wimbush throw him the ball. He has very good blocking when he's forced to, I think. He doesn't give up on plays. Even if a play is broken, he comes back to it. There was a play I saw where he was supposed to just do an out route and kind of be a safety valve for the quarterback. And then when he rolled out and the defense committed to the quarterback, he jumped up and made a big play, broke over to the second seam, and took off for a big play. He does have the breakaway speed, kind of like CJ Conrad. He can make contested catches. And then his feet's not bad either. My biggest thing with him is he's a big hindrance as a pass blocker. I mean, there was times where I was watching the pass rush that plays UTSA, and it's nothing fantastic, nowhere near NFL talent, but they were still just flying by him. The biggest thing with him is I think he's 6'3", 250, but I think he has to get a little bit more muscle, and that will come in time working out for a team and everything. He just needs polished overall. He can develop into something, but right now he's just a lump of coal that needs to be turned into a diamond. But I think he can.
Right. One name I did notice, actually, Peyton Pueller. He plays for the national side. He's a linebacker that I liked quite a bit whenever I watched a lot of Washington State this year. So that was one of them that he's hit 100 tackles a couple times in his college career and 5-year starter. So he's a little bit older, but, he popped out on tape pretty well. Someone I liked. He's playing for the American national side. Sorry. Cole Farmer from Penn State's the guy I caught on tape a couple times. So there's definitely some guys here that I haven't had hardly any chance to scout specifically. So I'd be curious to see who stands out in this game and dig into him a little bit more. So
I'm excited to see how it is. I can honestly say I have never watched the NFLPA Bowl. But I will be watching on Saturday, just because if Matt Miller's picking some talent, it's obviously going to be done right. So he's not just going to have randoms thrown in there. So,
until we started getting into this crazy Devy thing, I'd never even heard of it. I didn't even know. First time
you said it first. So yes, I'm on the same boat.
Yeah. What? Because I knew the East-West Shrine game and obviously the Senior Bowl, but I never really heard.
And this has no impact on Devy and nothing really with fantasy, but just a cool aspect of it is some of the coaches for the teams are Mike Tice, the old Vikings coach, Ed Reed, Plexico Burris.
Nice.
There was another player I saw that I was like, well, that's interesting.
Plexico's not going to teach him how to shoot guns, is he?
No, I think he's going to help the safeties, ironically.
Okay, that's good. Doom, doom.
Bad joke.
Nice. I like it. Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, our pun of the week. Anyway, that's all I really got this week, Andrew. I don't know. I want to deal next couple of weeks. We'll go next week. We'll go over the Senior Bowl, and then after that, I want to do some. We'll start diving into the players more specifically, and I also want to do a little Devy strategy because a lot of the Devy drafts and leagues that I'm in happen in mid to late February. So, I'd like to try to get. We'll go through some of the prospects, but maybe we'll stick an episode in there where we just dive right into, kind of like we did the mock last week. Kind of some names you should know more, before your Devy drafts hit. So, yeah, that's all I got. Andrew? Yeah.
No, I would definitely recommend that we record Thursday night if possible, because I'll be down in Mobile from
next week, yeah.
Monday to Thursday.
Yeah, we can do it. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because Wednesday I'll be at the Stick to Football live taping and hopefully get in some questions there, and I'm going to try to plug us if I can get that out and not edit it out by the people at Bleacher Report.
I'm pretty sure.
But I'm sure. But regardless, I'm going to be down there, and then hopefully Thursday when I get back, my flight comes in at 1:30 in the afternoon. So take a power nap, and then we can talk about stuff I saw and other news and headlines from the Senior Bowl, because we'll get measurements for players, which is always a big thing. I don't know if I'm going to go to that, and watch everyone in their underwear come up on the scale. So we'll just play it by ear. It'll be a fun week. I'm gonna try to get an Instagram up for us at Devy Manual, just so I can post some Senior Bowl stuff and different clips of players I can get and stuff like that. And
we could be hip with the kids. Hashtag lit.
Yeah, next we'll do TikTok.
No, I refused. Johnny Karate. Anyways, all right, man. Tell the people where they can find you other than the Senior Bowl next week.
Yeah, no, if there's anyone that listens, reach out, let me know. I'll be down in Mobile. Very excited for that, like I've said and talked about 10,000 times now, I feel like. I do have game previews for Fantasy Impact and just Draft Impact for the NFL Bowl and Shrine games coming out Friday and Saturday for Dynasty Happy Hour and the Score Crow. I'll be sure to tweet those out. You can find me on Twitter at DHH_Mandrew. Lots of fun content I'm working on. Senior Bowl, we'll get more stuff out, and it's all going to be about you, the listeners. What about you, Dwight?
You can find me on Twitter at FFPeoplesChamp. We're writing for DHH and some other things going down the pipeline, just working on tape right now while I still have time. Just trying to watch as much as I can every day at work without getting in trouble. I know that's kind of weird, but that's how I have to roll, man. And you can find the podcast itself, this lovely podcast, at Devy Manual on Twitter, and you can email us at DevyOwnersManual@gmail.com if you have any questions. And hopefully we'll get some stellar guests coming up for you and a lot of really good information coming up through the draft process. Hopefully we can bring something a little different to the table. And, we're not like, neither of us are like professionally trained scouts. We're just guys that love football and love playing Devy and all that. So that's all I got, man.
Yeah, no, we'll bust our tails for you and bring in the best content we can for sure. Just have to ride the storm with us and have faith.
Yes, faith will be one. All right. Have a good week, everyone.
No, you're good. I was going to ask you, do you think if